We're going to go through what I'm calling the universal base project. Simply put, it's a way to set up and organize every project. It doesn't matter how big, it doesn't matter how small. This is how we're going to organize it every single time.
All right, so let's jump into our test project here. We have this folder, Larrabee-Cinnabons. This is what we would typically get from a client. This is coming straight from a shoot where we'd get, two folders, somebody on set probably just dumping cards onto this. And maybe we get it as a download, maybe we get it as a hard drive, but we have a footage folder here broken out as A cam and B cam. We can just see jumping into both these. These are all MP4 files, and then sound, they recorded audio separately. So first things first, what we're going to want to do is create our project folder. So we'll do it right here on the desktop. Normally we would do this on our shared Dropbox server, but for our purposes here, we can just do it on the desktop. So we're going to name this month, day, client, project title. So today's May 15th. So we would do 0515 the client, who is Larrabee in this case, and then the project title, which is cinnamon buns. Okay. We open this folder, and the first thing that we're going to do is we are going to drop our folder structure, which we have pre-baked here. Just a simple copy and paste, drop it in. And then we are going to organize the footage and the sound into our two different assets folders. So for audio, we are going to rename this, and I'm going to add the date again because we'll do it chronologically, and we'll just call this shoot audio. So the date here, 0515, and then we're going to add a little identifier here. So this is shoot audio, but you could also add music, you could add voiceover, you could add sound effects. Just to be clear, the reason that we're doing this chronologically is because over the course of a project, you're likely going to keep adding things into these folders. Instead of labeling them as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or just shoot audio, we want to do it chronologically. And this is actually really helpful when you're working on a project that takes, happens over the course of a month, because you might have music that you dropped in one day, and the client didn't like that. And so we have to go back and find new music, and we put that in, as opposed to dumping everything into a music folder that you're just going to keep adding to, and then you have to hunt and peck to find the things that you're adding. This way, it's all chronological, it's separated by date, and this could also be the same if you're doing voiceover. Maybe at the beginning of a project, you're going to do a scratch voiceover track, and then you're going to have an actual voiceover artist do it. So then we'd create, two different voiceover folders, and again, we would label them chronologically. So now we can just take this and we can just dump this right into this folder. See it go in there, and then for footage, we're going to do the same exact thing. So we're going to just label it 0515, and we can call this raw. We can label it that, and we'll just drop. We can drop A cam, B cam in there. We're actually just going to name this 0515 footage. Okay, cool. Now it's time to jump right into the project, and we are going to jump into our template. So we already have an existing template for Premiere Pro. Open it up, and the first thing we're going to do is we are going to save this project.
Can't overstress this enough. Save your project before you do anything.
So we're going to go up. We're going to go to Save As, and we're going to name it the exact same name as our project folder. The only difference here is we're going to add a 1 to it to indicate that it's the first version of this project. And we're going to save that into the Premiere Pro folder. Okay, cool. That is all set up.
Let's look at the project folder structure here. 3 notes. 1, everything is numeric so that it always keeps the same structure. This is not a small detail. This will save you hundreds of hours of hunting and pecking for finding assets throughout the course of your editing life. 2, there is nothing you could ever add to an edit that won't fit into one of these 8 folders or bins. Nothing. And 3, we made a template. Just use the template. We have a template for it. Use it. But here's a breakdown. 1 audio. What goes in here? Music, sound effects, voiceovers, shoot audio, enhanced audio. Think of anything that's, an audio file. MP3, AIF, WAV file, any audio format. 2 footage. This is for moving footage. Think of this as anything that was filmed on any camera or exported out of any video editing software that was given to us. I should also note we have a separate folder for things that are rendered out as graphics. So it wouldn't go into the footage folder. It would go into the GFX folder. Anyways, 3-edit, this is for all your sequences. 4-resource, this is for anything in the resources folder, which includes anything static that was given to us. This can be watermarks, SRT caption files, photos, static graphic overlays, but that we didn't create, that were given to us or came pre-made. 5-GFX is for any sort of motion graphics or anything we rendered out of After Effects or any motion graphics software, Cinema 4D or Nuke, or anything that was delivered to us. You might say, what if we render out static graphics? Where do those go? It goes in here. And I know it's a static graphic, but this is where it goes. 6-titles. This is for anything that was made inside of Premiere Pro. We label it as titles because you used to be able to make titles back in the day in Premiere Pro. You can still do that in some capacity. We do it mainly in After Effects now, but that's how it got its name and we just stuck with it. But this is literally anything that is made inside of Premiere Pro. So this could be adjustment layers, black video, bars and tone, color mats, captions, screen grabs, etc. If you made it inside of Premiere Pro, it's going to go into the titles folder. 7-nested. This is for nested sequences within Premiere Pro. 8-linked. This is for linked comps, so that anything that when you're sending footage from Premiere Pro to After Effects or maybe like Audition, it's going to show up as a linked comp in the project window, and we're going to put all of those into this folder. Also, a big note when it comes to linked comps, we don't dynamic link from After Effects to Premiere Pro. It's okay to send stuff to After Effects in the form of linked comps, and we have a specific way to do this which we'll cover, but we don't ever export something using dynamically linked comps in our timeline. Instead, we round trip from After Effects by rendering out graphics and then importing it into our project. Do not leave dynamically linked comps in your project when you export or pass off to somebody else. Finally, the reason for having all these folders is simply to have a place to put everything, because at the end of the day, we want to be able to twirl all these up and have 8 neat little bins that are just sitting there and have a nice clean project. Something that is vital when working with other people, passing off a clean and organized project is a little show of hospitality and respect for your fellow editor, and it will keep you working for a long time. Now let's bring in our assets.
Okay, so now we're going to import all of our assets. So let's grab our footage first, and we'll go into the asset folder, find our footage in 0515 footage, and we will bring it in like that. And we have A cam, B cam there. And for audio, we'll do the same. Just go in. I'm hitting Command I just for import, and we'll bring that folder in. And I like to bring it in, again, to match the name of the folder that we see within the Finder, so we have them coming in clean. And then again, if we wanted to bring in music tomorrow, it'd be 0516-music or 0517, as you add things in chronologically. This really does help. It seems like a minor detail essentially, but it's really helpful when you have sort of big expansive projects and things coming in day after day, to not have to go in and again try to hunt and peck to find what just got added to this larger folder. And then it's simple enough to just go in between folders, if you're looking for something in the Finder to find it.
Modifying audio channels. This is a step that's overlooked by a lot of editors, and it's a big mistake. Our goal is to have independently editable audio channels once we start editing. And the best and most efficient way to do this is to separate the audio channels before we start working.
So when looking at the footage, the other thing that we'll do after, we've kind of found the key piece of it is I'm going to glance at the audio channels. This is playing down. We can see that it's coming in only on one track. So clearly this was just like either mixed down track, or this was just camera audio that we're now going to sync up with the shoot audio. And I'll click on a couple other pieces of footage. Like I'm looking at this footage right here. There's no audio. You can see it in your audio levels. I'm also going to close this. We're playing this down and there's no audio happening here. So we can look at a few more clips. There's no audio there, no audio there. And we can see that this is like slow motion. This is just a B-roll camera, right? They're just grabbing all B-roll here. Maybe there's another camera where they're capturing audio. So that's A cam. B cam, let's see. Yep.
Okay.
Looks like we have one track of audio here.
Great. Yeah.
So all of this to say is that sometimes things come in and we have two different audio channels that come in on the camera. And so what we would do is we would modify the audio channels to make sure that we have two separate independent channels that we can then bring into a sequence and we can have, full control over. So I'm going to do it here, even though clearly some of these don't even have audio and some only have like one track of audio. One important note actually is that you want to make sure that the tracks that you're highlighting all have the same type of audio initially. So if you have two different cameras, you wouldn't want to highlight all of them. Like if you have two cameras and one camera had 2 tracks of audio and then another camera had 6 tracks of audio, right? This is something that does happen. You wouldn't want to highlight all of them and do this at the same time. You want to just keep it within the same audio type for that given set of clips. So we're just going to do this because all of these are the same. I'm just going to highlight all of them. Oh God. Just going to highlight all of them, unselect the footage folder, right click, go down to modify audio channels, and we are going to change the preset to mono, and this now gives us 2 distinct channels, and you can actually see it visually. There's now a line in between these two. I'm going to undo this, and you can see the line is now gone. Redo it, and the line is there. And so all this is showing you is that it went from one stereo track that had a left and a right to 2 independent tracks. Okay, so we have our footage in here. So now what we're going to do is we're going to make our first sequence. So the first thing I want to do when I jump into this project is just like glance at the footage, make sure I have an understanding of like what it all is. Sometimes it's sometimes in multiple cameras and mixed formats. Sometimes it's different frame rates. That happens frequently. Maybe some things came in at 60 frames per second. Some things came in at 2997. Some things came in at 120 frames per second that we're going to use for slow motion or something like that. So I just like to get a glance at this. So what I'll do is I'll expand the window by hitting the tilde key, and we'll go in and we'll just look. I'm just looking at some of these general things, and I'm talking through it, so it's taking a lot longer, but usually this is like 10 seconds. I'm just looking and seeing, okay, all of this footage looks all this footage is the same. It's all coming in at 1920 by 1080, pretty standard stuff. That's it. Just glancing at that to see what we got. And then what I like to do is I like to find sort of the base asset. Now again, all of these are the same, so this isn't really going to matter in this project, but I like to find the base asset that we're going to use to create our first sequence, and we're going to use the settings of that base asset to essentially be the main settings for the sequence. So in this case, I already know, but in this case, it's going to be like the long form interview. It's like a sit down interview. If we look at some of the footage here, this is clearly some B-roll stuff. This is her kind of standing up and talking. This is all B-roll, just glancing at it. And then at the back end here, we have this like sit down interview. So I know, but again, off the bat, this is a 50-minute interview. As we can see, this is going to be some of the primary footage that we're going to use. So I'm going to use this. We're going to take our key piece of footage here, and we're going to drag it over this little sticky note. I don't even know what it's called, but it's the new sequence sticky note, and it's going to create a sequence, and it's going to create the sequence, most importantly, in the same exact settings as the clip that we dragged into it. So as we can see here, 23.976, and the frame size is 1920 by 1080. Everything else looks good, and we are okay there. So now it created a sequence in our footage folder, and we're going to drop that down into our edit folder. And as you can see, our edit folder is broken out into the different stages of a sequence. So we have sync, select, string out, assembly, first review, collab, and delivery. We're going to start in the sync stage, and the first thing we're going to do, let's twirl this up, and the first thing we're going to do is we're going to rename this to match the project name, and then we're just going to put -0, which is the stage, we're in the sync stage, and .1, which is the first version of this. So there we go. We have our project set up, ready to go, our first sequence created, and now we can actually dive into the edit.